AskReddit asks, what is the most memorable moment you shared with a stranger who you never saw again?
I was about 10 years old and I had a pair of Heelys and they were the coolest fucking thing on the earth.
I would roll all over on
Those things and thought I was hot shit.
We were in China,
spending a few weeks in Beijing.
I was rolling around in
Tiananmen Square. Hit a crack and lost one of the wheels.
I looked around for about an hour,
but to no avail.
I was probably
visibly bummed,
as my Heelys,
the things that made me hot shit,
were now ineffective and basically ruined.
The next morning,
I was walking
through the square on the way to meet my friends, and an older gentleman ran up to me and stopped me. He had found my wheel. He said that he had seen me rolling around and saw me looking for the wheel after I fell. He saw that I gave up, and stuck around for another hour to keep looking after I left. He came there the next morning with no expectation that I'd pass through,
but wanted to be there just in case.
I'm not sure who was happier, me that I got my wheel back or him because he didn't think he'd see me in literally the world's busiest square. I said thank you and that was about it. We both had places to be and that was that.
My experience with Heelys was getting yelled at by Disney World employees.
I found a rock formation that looked like a dick and balls in a cave in Vietnam. I laughed and pointed at it. Some Chinese tourists started doing the same thing and then some Russian tourists followed suit. Great bonding because no matter what, phallic-shaped objects are funny. Pioneers used to ride these babies for miles.
Dick jokes are truly universal.
Was this I How Long Bay?
I'm pretty sure I have a picture of that exact rock cupping it.
Pioneers used to ride these babies for miles.
That's not a boner, it's a cock.
A cock, a great, big, beautiful cock.
NYC bar. I was on a first date and there was an old guy at the bar, looked like an old fisherman from a novel, and he was convinced my date and I were already married. He went on and on about it. We said we weren't married and he told us we were meant to be together and would be married a long time. He talked with us for a good 15 minutes about this. My date and I did get married about a year later and have been together almost 25 years now.
I'm pretty sure your husband time traveled back to that night as his future self.
Never ignore the advice of the elderly wise men.
And people claim nothing ever happens in Tiananmen Square. Reddit. Obligatory thanks for our gold kind stranger.
The People's Republic of China approves this message. The day my dad died I was holding it together pretty well. Late that night I went to Target to have a moment to just zone out and buy a few groceries. As I got to the check stand with my arm full of stuff I dropped a container of sour cream and it exploded everywhere. I completely lost control of myself and started to cry. The ugly cry. I was instantly surrounded by a group of women who just took charge of the whole situation. They helped me get everything paid for, cleaned up, and one lady even got a new sour cream. No words were spoken, but their compassion and take charge attitude has stayed with me since.
A flock of moms following their instincts. When I was at Disneyland a few years ago, a woman approached me out of the blue in the middle of Main Street and asked if I'd like to dance. I obliged her, and we spent the next few minutes chatting while her friends filmed us dancing. It turns out it was her birthday and she was traversing the park on a birthday scavenger hunt. And one of the items on the list was to dance with a stranger. I wished her a happy birthday. We said our goodbyes, and went our separate ways. I never even got her name. But it still makes me smile when I think about it.
You're a good stranger. Closing parenthesis dot.
That seems like a momentary success, but long-term failure on the part of the network creation event. Edit. Thank you, Golden Stranger. May your networking events be more successful than this one.
This is so accurate. I lolled.
I had about a 2-hour drive from Columbus to the Cleveland area. I tend to drive on the faster side, and therefore pass a lot of people. I noticed about 20 minutes into the drive that the car behind me was still the same one that got onto the highway right behind me. We ended up driving the entire 2 hours right next to each other or in front of behind each other. We created space in lanes to help the other pass the slower cars and made sure the other wouldn't fall behind. As I was getting off the highway, he honked his horn, gave me a big smile, and waved. It has been my favorite driving experience so far.
I've had fellow travelers keep me company for hours as well. When they exit, it's like losing a friend.
Same first name, same birthday, same interests and same work field. Saw them at a network creation event and never seen again.
That seems like a momentary success, but long-term failure on the part of the network creation event. Edit. Thank you, Golden Stranger. May your networking events be more successful than this one.
You sure it wasn't a mirror?
I'm pretty sure I told this before, but I enjoy it, so here it goes. I was playing on my Nintendo DS in the subway when I caught a random connection. I looked up to see if I could spot the other person with a DS, and wound up locking eyes with this incredibly intense little boy who was seated a few benches away from me. "Do you have Pokemon?" he asked. And as it turned out, I did in fact have Pokemon. With that, our fate was sealed. There's this thing in the Pokemon games where, if you meet the gaze of another trainer on your journey, then you must do battle. I had just experienced this in real life. He destroyed me, all level 100s. Felt like I was an extra in the damn anime doing battle with the protagonist.
Was he wearing shorts? Did he proclaim them comfy and easy to wear?
I was leaving the gym and walked down a long hallway, and didn't remember having any money on me. As soon as I stepped outside, I heard a coin drop, and looked down and $2 seemed to have fallen from somewhere on me. It was strange because I didn't have any money on me, and it would have fallen off of me inside while walking. I thought, it rolls and I pick it up. I was confused because I don't know where the $2 came from. I look up and there's a homeless man in a wheelchair playing harmonica who I otherwise would have passed by. I gave the $2 to him. He said thank you. I said no problem. I began to walk away and he said good. And you? ? I played along and said, oh, good. Where did you learn to play harmonica? He proceeded to tell me that he used to play all sorts of instruments until he had his stroke, and showed me that one of his arms didn't work anymore. He was a nice guy, and it made my day a bit better. It was a nice and humbling moment.
I was on a long late-night bus ride. It was express, so it made very few stops. The bus had maybe 10 people on it in total. Halfway through the trip, it made a stop at a small town station so people could grab a snack or use a public restroom and maybe stretch their legs. I went up to the counter to buy what at that point was my dinner even though it was after 10 p.m. and when the cashier rang it up I passed a $50 bill to her and she told me that she couldn't make change. Defeated, I went back to my seat on the bus. As everyone piled on and the bus drove away, a lovely middle-aged lady walked up from her seat near the back and politely asked if I minded if she sat with me. I told her she was more than welcome. She sits and proceeds to unpack a small lunch bag. She then split the entirety of her meal with me. She said she had been waiting for the washroom to clear out and had overheard what happened. She said, I've gone hungry in my life and it sucks. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So you can share with me. When we were done, I jokingly asked if she could break a $50 and we had a good laugh. She stuck with me for the remainder of the trip and was a very interesting lady besides being incredibly generous. I hope she is well.
I was 13 and waiting for a taxi. It was raining and I had no umbrella. So I got soaked. This guy next to me sheltered me from the rain with his umbrella. We talked while waiting for the taxi and he was so easy and fun to talk to. Note: I was a shy kid with few friends, so this was a unique event. After about 15 minutes another guy came up on his scooter. My guy told him that I was a friend of his and if he could drop me to my destination. So yeah, I just climbed on this stranger's scooter and took the lift home. Perhaps that was dumb looking back on it. Anyway, I still think of this guy and the kindness he showed me to this day even though I don't even know his name or remember his face. Opening parenthesis.
I met a well-dressed older gentleman at a train station in London. He struck up a conversation about the departures board. And being a 20 years old woman, I was hesitant to talk back. But I like chatting to people and decided to keep the convo going. He ended up being extremely easy to talk to. I ended up telling him I was waiting for a train to take me to the airport so I could see my boyfriend in Hong Kong whom I hadn't seen for months. And he ended up telling me all about his life and his amazing family. And just be all-round charming. He was in London for the day to pick up a passport so he could whisk his wife away on holiday. And he just made me smile the way he was so smitten with her. He ended up leaving after about half an hour. And when he left he took my hand and kissed it, telling me it's so beautiful to see a young woman in love. I never caught his name. But I'll always remember him.
I was on an eastbound train from Colorado 2 days before Christmas. There was some kind of incident in another car around 11:00 that night. A dude got wasted and started threatening other passengers, and we had to make a stop so that the local police could come and collect him. After the delay, the conductor came over the speakers and announced that if anyone was feeling upset or shaken by the incident, one of the passengers had offered to play his guitar in the snack car, and anyone who was awake was welcome to come down and join in for a sing-along. I'm always down for weird train activities, so I decided to grab my harmonica from my bag and head down. There were about 15 of us in the car, ranging in age from 16 to mid-70s and from all over the country. We sang every song we could think of that even kind of referenced a train. We were somewhere in rural Nebraska at that point and nobody had cell service to look up lyrics. So at times I was pretty sure that we were making up more of the words than we actually remembered. The conductor came through after a while and offered to play a few songs. So the guy with the guitar handed it off and pulled out a mandolin. And my harmonica got passed around the group while one guy drummed along on his backpack. After a while the conductor got up and left. Then came back with a copy of _the Polar Express _. He read it out loud to our absolutely captivated group of mostly adult travelers while the snow flew all around us in the night. And I swear that for a few minutes our trip felt every bit as magical as the visit to Santa Claus in the story sometime well after the snack car was supposed to have been vacated for the night. We capped things off with the most ridiculously earnest rendition of Don't Stop Believing that has ever been performed and went our separate ways. I never saw anyone from our little makeshift band again. But I'll always remember that weird, wonderful late-night celebration of Journey and the magic of winter travel that came about because some guy was a jackass on a train.
Dude, I think you passed one of God's tests.
I was in an ice cream store with a few friends. And I made eye contact with some random guy walking to the counter.
For some reason, neither of us broke eye contact. And for those few seconds he made an incredibly goofy face. To which I responded with another goofy face. For the rest of the time we were in there, him and I didn't even look at each other again. Edit.
After the interaction, we didn't look at each other and make eye contact again. I did look at him a few times while he was waiting and his back was turned and it's possible he looked at me. I should have phrased that better.
A stranger gave me $300. No strings attached. I met him and his wife in Oklahoma City. While on a road trip across country alone. I was seated near them at a restaurant bar. Didn't ask for any money and don't even know his name. But he rules.
I was in the US Navy at the time and we pulled into port in Norway. We had a couple days to explore and I went to the closest city, Bergen. While in the main square area of town just down the road from their fish market there was a small boy. Maybe 3 years old, and his father. The boy had a large red balloon but it was windy and it got away from him. His father made a grab for it and missed, but obviously couldn't run after it and leave his kid. It was blowing generally in my direction and I made a quick dash for it and managed to catch it out of the air before it blew away. I then crouched down and held it out for the boy. He looked like he was about to start crying but immediately brightened up with the kind happiness only a child can have. He took the balloon and his father just gave me a small smile and a nod. I returned the smile and nod and we went on our way. This moment always sticks out to me. Edit. Thanks for the gold, friend.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and above all, have an excellent day you incredible people.